I'm DanielDaou, winemaker and co-proprietor of Dow Family Estates. We're located in Paso Robles, California. I grew up beginning of my life in Lebanon, but most of my youth was spent growing up in France, where I finished my high school education. I immigrated to the United States, to California, when I was 18 years old to attend university and study computer engineering. Later on, I went on to start a high-tech company with my brother when I was 21 years old that focused on computerizing hospital systems. My passion for wine started in France and grew tremendously when I was in my 20s. Eventually, my brother and I would go on founding and starting our winery 14 years ago in 2007. My passion for wine started in my 20s, and I searched the globe for 8 years for what I thought would be the perfect terroir for growing the Bordeaux varieties, mostly Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc, Merlot, and the other varieties as well. That search led me 14 years ago in 2007 to the west side of Paso Robles. It's a very unique site that we like to call a rare phenomenon, because it is a site that incorporates the soils of Europe, which are very rare and don't exist typically in California, but with a climate that is just perfect at achieving that ripeness year after year. So I founded a company 14 years ago after discovering this beautiful terroir that we call Dow Mountain. I've always followed my passion, and when I started the winery with my brother 14 years ago, it was all about becoming a winemaker. I wanted to be a vigneron. That is why I started a winery, not to have another famous wine, not to make money. It was really driven by passion. Today, because of that, I manage all the vineyards and I make all the wines for our winery. When it comes to products, when it comes to the wines that we produce, the most important thing is consistency. It is very important for us to create that brand loyalty within the consumer world. When a consumer can purchase a bottle of wine year after year and after year, that over delivers for the price, that is extremely important in our strategy in making sure that our brand is recognized and respected all over the world. Yes, we have many, but probably the one that we use the most is that we are a people company in the wine industry. We don't just see ourselves as a winery. Our people play a huge role in our success. We've attracted some incredible talent that have joined us on this journey. So we always like to think of ourselves as a people company, but we are in the wine industry. If I had to name a wine, I would pick our Cabernet Sauvignon, our patrimony Cabernet Sauvignon. The wine incorporates some of the highest phenolics that have ever been observed on this planet, but yet it's elegant, it's layered, it's complex, but at the same time, it's gentle and it's round and it's approachable. I like to think of myself as such a wine. I'm a morning person. I'm a farmer, so I wake up early. I love to go out early in the morning, watch the sunrise as it's rising over the vines. I love to walk the vineyard in the morning. It just gives me a lot of pleasure. So I'm definitely a morning person. As a child, I wanted to be a doctor, but that obviously did not work out. And then later on, I decided that I wanted to become an engineer. The passion for winemaking really came to me in my mid-20s, when I quickly realized that my true calling was actually to become a winemaker. So I went from a doctor to an engineer to eventually what I really want my heart is, becoming a winemaker. My dad has always been my biggest source of inspiration. He was an incredible person who played such a big role in our family. He taught us to be kind. He taught us to pursue our dreams. He taught us to love. He taught us to always accept whatever comes to you in life and make the best out of it. And he has been my greatest source of inspiration. COVID-19 was absolutely a very difficult year for the whole world. We had to wear masks while making wine and interacting with each other. We had to shut down our winery for many months, and therefore we're not able to generate the sales that normally come from a direct-to-consumer approach. But besides all these challenges, we all have learned one thing, that people drink in great times and people drink in bad times. As a result of that, last year was a very successful year from a wine sales standpoint for our winery, having experienced last year a 50% growth from the year before. While segments of the market, like the on-premise segment, which is where typically our restaurants, has not done very well because many businesses were closed because they were confined. The off-premise wines that you buy at a store, wine that you buy at a supermarket, have done extremely well for us, as well as international business has done extremely well for us. So as a result of that, from a wine sales standpoint, we had a stellar year last year, growing at 50% from the year before. I would say challenging, very challenging year, not just in terms of course, the obvious dealing with COVID, but California experienced a very warm year in 2020 that affected the entire state. There were fires, there were smoke taint, 4 heat waves that were extremely difficult. But despite all that, our winery has made arguably the best wines we've ever made in 2020. And thankfully, we were not affected by all of that. But it was challenging. I think that would describe very much 2020 as a year. From 2020, I think we learned that, prepare for the worst, but expect the best. We prepared for the worst. We shut down our winery. We didn't know how long this pandemic was going to last. But at the end of the day, we thought we did pretty well. So 2020 prepared us for hopefully, always preparing for the worst, but expecting the best. I definitely missed being out, traveling to Europe, which I usually go 3 times a year. I miss going out to restaurants, eating out, enjoying, a nice dinner with a nice bottle of wine. I enjoyed interacting with people more, shaking hands, giving kisses, giving hugs to family members. All these things created a real challenge in 2020. And I think as a whole, we saw our whole life being changed, which was not easy, especially culturally speaking. That was very difficult for us. My brother and I have been through a lot in our lives. We were shot and almost killed in a terrorist attack. We were 8 years old and 12 years old. We immigrated to 3 different countries, had to learn new cultures, had to learn new ways, had to learn new languages. And in a lot of ways, this evolution that we went through has prepared us to adapt to new situations. And I think in 2020, that came in very handy. We were ready for the challenges, we were ready to face them, and we did. And the result at the end of the year was exceptional. I think that several years ago, we foresaw that we had to be very much innovators. We are restless innovators. Both my brother and I are restless innovators. We never rest on our laurels. Several years ago, we realized that e-commerce was going to play a huge role in the success of any company out there, not just in the wine industry. So having an e-commerce strategy, a mobile strategy, was something that we took very seriously many years ago. That came in extremely helpful and handy when 2020 hit and the COVID crisis hit, because we were ready to tackle this crisis. And while we could not sell wines directly at our tasting room, we used e-commerce as a channel to reach out to our consumers and to our members. And the results were very successful. So the lesson that we got from 2020 was be prepared, because the world is changing. and you must be prepared to face it. And the best way to face that is by adopting, when it comes to a company standpoint, a very strong e-commerce and mobile strategy, so that you can really stay connected to the consumer. Sometimes you may have crisis where you cannot connect personally. They may not be able to come to your winery, but technology can be used to create that connection that you need to basically have touch points with the consumer so they can purchase your wine. The COVID crisis has affected many segments of the industry, in good and bad. I'll say that number one, unfortunately, many restaurants have not been able to sell wine, and as a result of that, have shut down. There are some statistics out there that show that possibly 50% of all the restaurants will never come back in business, which is a very sad thing, because most of them are ran by small families and by people who rely on that for an income and to make a living. The second effect I saw from COVID-19, the crisis, was that people started ordering more online. Online demand has grown quite a bit, and I think that's good for the industry. Last but not least is the use of technology for doing tastings. I usually perform 40, 50 dinners a year when I talk about the wines and we pair them with food. Well, over the last year, I've performed over 300 virtual dinners and tastings by using platforms like Zoom or WebEx or other platforms. And I think the world has recognized that sometimes a Zoom call can just do the job. There's no need to take a plane, fly 3 hours to do a dinner, even though it's always good to connect with people personally. I think that is no longer the norm. I think you will see more and more tastings and meetings happen through Zoom meetings because the world has gotten used to it in the last year. I am not worried about the future, based on how our winery has performed in the last several years. We are one of the fastest growing wineries in America today and possibly the world. We have the number one sold Cabernet Sauvignon in the United States in the $20 to $25 category, luxury category price. We have the number one sold rosé in the United States, domestic rosé. So our winery, in our soul of a line, by the way, our highest end Cabernet Sauvignon is one of the best selling Cabernet Sauvignon in the United States today. So I see the trend. I like where it's going. I'm not worried about the industry. I think that, we talk about millennials, starting to drink wine. Gen Xers are starting to, drink a lot of wine. So I'm not too concerned. No, I think that the wine industry is here to stay. I feel very good about the future of our winery in particular because we're growing very rapidly, and the ratings are here, the reviews are here, and the consumer adoption is here. So not a lot of concern yet. I think that we just went through a good practice last year of how to deal with pandemics. There could be future pandemics in the world, and I think we'll be more prepared next year, or next time, sorry, it happens, hopefully not next year. I think that the key to a business to survive, at least in America, during these crises is, number one, to make sure that you have an off-premise strategy and an on-premise strategy, but don't just rely on direct-to-consumer sales, because what we saw is that direct-to-consumer sales does get hurt during pandemics. So it's very important to have proper distribution, proper relationships in the market that will carry your wines and distribute them to the right channels if a pandemic hits. I think e-commerce, mobile strategy is going to play a huge role. Using technology to do virtual tastings is very important. I think any business today must have all these components established and very well established in order to prepare for any future crisis. I think the foundation for a better world is for everybody to accept each other. We're all different. We come from different races. We come from different religions. We come from different ethnic background. We come from different education, different culture. but at the end of the day, we're one people. I think when the world starts realizing that the world is just one people coming together, I think we'll break a lot of these barriers and the world will be a happier place. I think it depends who you are. I mean, what we're seeing in the United States, that a lot of distributors are creating digital platforms because they don't want to have too many feet on the street. They don't want to hire thousands of people to go out and sell wine every day. So having a digital platform allows a restaurant, for instance, to order a wine just by hitting two buttons, so that they don't have to come spend an hour meeting with a person, tasting the wine, because they're already familiar with the wine. That helps with already established wineries. Unfortunately, it does not help if you're a new winery or if you have a new product, because the restaurant may have a very hard time finding out about you in order to purchase the wine. So digitalization from a wholesale standpoint can be very helpful to establish brands. However, for brands that are not established, it could be challenging. I think we're realizing that e-commerce digital strategy is extremely important, even more important than we thought, given the current conditions with COVID. We're going to continue to spend money on developing great platforms to make it easy for the consumer to stay in touch with us, to connect to us, and to have a very easy venue on ordering wines whenever they want to. So we'll continue to invest in that, but we're also going to invest into pop-ups. Pop-ups are becoming very popular. We did many trials when it comes to pop-ups, and it really introduces the brand to the consumer, therefore creating incredible awareness. We know in the case of our products that great awareness tends to lead to great adoption. So as a result of that, being mobile, having pop-ups in places all over the country or the world, where consumers can actually get to experience your wine and then have a venue to actually ordering them through digital, is going to be a great strategy for us in the future. So my brother and I feel that we have discovered a real gem in the hills of Paso Robles. Now, why is it such a gem? Because it may arguably be one of the only terroirs in the world that provides great minerality, great acidity, reminiscent of the soils of Europe, argilo-calcaire soils, calcareous clay, combined with just the perfect weather to achieve ripeness year after year. What that allows us to do is deliver to the consumer a value that is incredible. How do we measure that? We measure that through phenolics. There's a direct correlation with better wines, better vintages, better terroirs, and higher in balance phenolics. And what we've discovered on our mountain is, after measuring 600 Cabernets or Bordeaux wines from all over the world, we've realized that we have a very unique gem. We're able to accomplish and achieve phenolics that are some of the highest, if not the highest in the world. What that means is that we can deliver to the consumer a very affordable bottle of wine that can outperform a wine that sells for a lot more. And that has been at the heart of our success at DAO. We call it approachable luxury, the ability to have a bottle of wine that is affordable, but that drinks like one of the best wines in the world. I hope you can enjoy our wines. I hope you get to taste them for yourself and see what we're talking about, and see the great things that are happening in the Paso Robles region.